I'm unimpressed. Good evening. The 49ers won a big game, a game they desperately needed. They won 23-20. They came from behind. They had a game-winning drive. Everything is great, except it was one of the uglier wins you'll ever see. It was one of the least impressive wins you'll ever see. And all the issues that the Niners had the first half of the season showed up in this game. So is this a turning point for the 49ers? Maybe, in the sense that they won and they're now on their first 2-game winning streak of the season. But there were some disconcerting things about this game, some bright spots as well. D says, is Mason still hurt or is Kyle just back to his ignore Mason phase now that CMC is back? Well, that was one of the things. He's fine. We didn't play much. But before we get to Kyle Shanahan's usage of the players or Brock Purdy's incredible game, we need to talk about the thing that overshadowed the victory. Every time the Niners win a game, they do something immediately to overshadow the victory. Week 1, it was Jordan Mason letting it slip that he knew on Friday that Christian McCaffrey was going to be out. That overshadowed everything. A couple of weeks ago, Niners win, and Nick Bosa does his little thing after the game. You know what it was. That was another one. Immediately overshadowed the victory. Talked about that for 2 weeks. Then today, game isn't even over yet, and the Niners are fighting on the sideline. Jake Moody misses his 3rd field goal of the game. This is early in the 4th quarter. A lot of game left. The 49ers were still winning at this point. And Deebo Samuel goes up to Jake Moody on the sideline and says something which really upsets Tabor Pepper. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's 3 specialists on the team, the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper. And so one of them stood up for Jake Moody, who doesn't look like he necessarily would stick up for himself. I mean, just saying. So Tabor Peppers, he's 6'4", he's 250. He gets up in Deebo's face, and then it says something to Deebo, clearly sticking up for his teammate, who Deebo is attacking. They're all teammates. Deebo's attacking Moody, who, didn't need that at that time. And then Deebo grabs Tabor Pepper by the throat. And that's all that the cameras picked up. Now, Jesse Naylor, Last Second Sports, make sure you subscribe and follow. Leave him, subscribe. What are the things? Niners After Dark, he was here. He said that after that, Deebo kept going back to Tabor Pepper and Jake Moody and taunting them, even though the team was trying to keep Deebo away from them. So, I don't know. Some people think Deebo was really cool for showing up his teammate with the game still on the line, the Niners still winning. I actually think Tabor Pepper did a great thing. Who was a good teammate in that moment, Deebo or Tabor? Tabor. And if Deebo Samuel had messed up and dropped passes like he normally does, and someone got in his face about it and yelled at him, and one of the wide receivers backed up Deebo Samuel, everyone would be praising that wide receiver and criticizing Fred Warner. So, to me, this is a team. I mean, what Deebo Samuel is completely emblematic of what's wrong with this team. They're not a team. It's one team. You don't get to go up to Jake Moody and be like, it's your fault. Do better. Who are you? You have 50 yards, Deebo. You've been a complete disappointment since you got paid, Deebo. You take up way more of the salary cap than Moody, Deebo. You didn't score a touchdown today. Jake Moody scored more points than you. So Deebo Samuel putting himself above Jake and dividing the team doesn't help anyone. Tabor Pepper helped the 49ers because the person who closed out the victory, Brock Purdy and Jake Moody. Jake Moody, after missing 3 field goals, probably wanted to eat his liver on the field, somehow finds the focus and the confidence to make the final field goal, which was a long one. And I wonder if no one on the team had stood up for him while Deebo Samuel embarrassed him on television, would he have been able to make that last kick? We'll never know. But you know what? It's possible. The answer is no. The last thing a player needs when they're being really critical of themselves is some other player to get on them in front of everyone. That doesn't help. So Deebo Samuel, not impressed. Tabor Pepper, good for you. But what I want to go with this is like, this team isn't tight-knit. It's not really a team. The offense is beefing with the special teams. That's a direct reflection of the head coach. Like, after the game, someone asked Kyle Shanahan, hey, what'd you think of that fight on your sideline? He's like, I didn't see it. Someone just described it to me. You didn't see it? It's your team. You know, I covered this team when Jim Harbaugh was the coach. If there were a fight on his sideline, he would have been in the middle of it. He would have been in the middle of it. That's why he wears cleats on the sidelines, because he wants to scrap. He wants to be in the middle of the action. If there's something that needs to be broken up, he's going to be the one to do it because he's confrontational and he's a leader. Kyle Shanahan is neither. He didn't know. Yes, you did. You just didn't want to handle it. You let Tabor Pepper handle it. And frankly, Tabor Pepper saved Jake Moody's game. Saved Jake Moody's confidence. That's the head coach's job. Kyle gets paid at least $10 million a year. Tabor Pepper gets paid in food stamps. It's not Tabor Pepper's job. His job is to snap the ball through his legs about 10 yards, 8. He's good at it. But now he's the emotional support center of the team, not Kyle. That's on Kyle. You got to have more than just your play sheet, man. Where is the emotional component of your coaching? And that was only one of the bad parts of Kyle's coaching. But to me, this fight is so emblematic of the 2024 49ers. Even when they win, they overshadow themselves. They can't help but show how dysfunctional they are. And so even when they win, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, it's not like they're playing up to their standard. It's not like they're seem to be enjoying each other's presence. It's not like Christian McCaffrey helped anything. Vinyl Work says Debo needs to go. I hope he gets traded next season. Debo needs to catch the ball and learn how to run routes before he calls anyone out. Fair. Okay, Christian McCaffrey came back. And the game plan was to feature Christian, force feed Christian. Run him into the ground. I mean, 13 carries for him, 1 for Mason, 1 for Garendo. You have one of the leading rushers in football in Jordan Mason, who's in midseason form, coming off a bye week, and the plan is to bury him and play Christian McCaffrey. Fine, I understand it. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in the league. Last year, he was the offensive player of the year. He makes the passing game so much more dangerous. Fine. And he had over 100, more than 100 yards. My dad's watching. More than 100 yards, to be grammatically correct, from scrimmage. So he made an impact. And despite his impact, despite the fact that he opened things up for other receivers and draw double teams and all that stuff, all the issues the Niners had before bye week showed up in this game. Generally not being tight-knit. Red zone problems. Lack of run defense. Pass rush. Special teams being the worst in the league. I think most of us felt during the first half of the season that there are deeply systemic issues with the 49ers. And I think a lot of us were skeptical that Christian McCaffrey single-handedly could fix them all. And so far, one game, he hasn't. And he played pretty well. He wasn't a good running back, but he was a good receiver. So we thought Christian would come back, or some people thought Christian would come back, and all of a sudden, the red zone issues would magically go away. But I think what we saw today is even with Christian on the field, the red zone offense lacks creativity. And that's not his fault. That's Kyle Shanahan's fault, because when it's first and goal from the 9, on first down, there's like an 80% chance it's going to be a run between the tackles that goes for a yard. It's been all year. Then on second and goal from the 8, there's going to be some low percentage pass that goes out of the back of the end zone or toward a pylon. And then on third and goal from the 8, Kyle's going to call some pass that goes backwards. Not a screen, because he never calls screens. No matter how many blitzes he faces, he'll call some swing pass or an end around or something gutless and not score. So Christian can't fix that. Christian can't kick field goals. Christian isn't going to break up a fight in the sideline. Christian can't rush the quarterback. Christian can't tackle. This is a team that is dysfunctional, even in wins. And maybe Christian will be so much better next week that it won't even matter. And he'll just go for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the Niners will blow out Seattle. Seattle's terrible. It could happen. But this game today, I think it showed that the current version of CMC isn't going to carry the 49ers back to the Super Bowl. They need to fix their own issues. With my dad this week, I said that the Niners should earn Christian McCaffrey's return. They didn't. They asked him to save him. He couldn't. And they almost lost because of the same issues that have been plaguing them all year. They got to show on their own that they actually have a playoff team. And they haven't shown it yet this year, playing like a 500 team. Yaz Williams says not playing Mason was nuts. Nuts. Joseph Furriel says Modi embodied the anxiety Jimmy G brought at his worst. Bosa got fined $11.5K by the NFL. Debo has zero self-control and lacks leadership to propel the team. What about Kyle, though? Matthew McBride says shouldn't have been that close, but a win is a win. A win is always a win. Absolutely. And the Bucs are devastated right now. They lost. Wasn't a moral victory for them. Shyamaul Dio says feel bad for Moody. Someone should check Debo on his attitude, thinking he's the best at receiver on the team. Also, defense is too soft. Yeah, Kyle needs to. But Debo's his favorite player. Debo's one of his friends. Debo's like the guy with the coat of many colors. Remember in the Old Testament? The favorite son with the coat of many colors? That's Debo. It's not good. Okay, let's talk special teams, though, because Debo did have a point. He shouldn't have said it. He should have kept it to himself. But, like, wow, man. 3 missed field goals. Sorry, Jake, to kick you when you're down. Great kick with the game on the line. But if the Niners hadn't drafted him in the 3rd round, he wouldn't be on this team. They would have waived him after he missed the extra point in the Super Bowl. And that extra point was huge in the Super Bowl because if he had made it, the Chiefs wouldn't have been able to tie the game with a field goal at the end of regulation. They would have been down 4. They would have had to score a touchdown. Maybe they would have, but they didn't. They didn't, and they didn't have to. And that's largely because of Moody. Then he comes back today, and it's like, yeah, he hasn't played in 3 weeks, and he may not be physically right, but I think with kicker, like they said, he didn't miss a kick all week in practice. One of his teammates said with kicking, it's all mental, 100% mental. So that's disconcerting with Moody. Last year, the Niners were in a lot of blowouts. They didn't have a lot of high-pressure kicks. When he was in those situations, he didn't do so well. Today, he melted down. And he was only part of the problem on special teams. They spent a 3rd-round pick on him. They spent a 4th-round pick on Mitch Wishnowsky. They spent a 4th-round pick on Jacob Cowing, the punt returner who muffed a punt, and Bucs recovered. Like the Niners are actually pretty heavily invested in special teams. George Odom is a special teams ace. He's on the team just to play special teams. They're invested in that position. Tabor Pepper is one of the best long snappers in the league, and yet they have the worst special teams in football. The worst. Who's going to be held responsible for that? Obviously, after the season, they could fire their special teams coordinator, Brian Schneider. But who hired Brian Schneider? Oh, Kyle. To me, this is Kyle's mess. He wanted Brian Schneider. Brian Schneider wanted Jake Moody. He tested Jake Moody's mental toughness in a workout with no one watching. Now, I understand you can't hire 90,000 people to come to a workout and test a guy coming into the draft, but it's like, dude, you can't simulate stress and anxiety and pressure in a workout. He thought he could, and he brought in Moody, who has a strong leg. It's just that he's like Sebastian Janikowski. He's the right-footed Sebastian Janikowski. Kick is 60 yards, but if it's 34, there's a big chance he's missing wide left or wide right. He's like me golfing. Can I hit the golf ball far? Yes. Is it going to go straight? No. No, absolutely not. And do I have any confidence when I step over the golf ball? Absolutely not. And you can see it all over my face. You can feel my anxiety from across the golf course. Someone's like, I'm on the 17th hole and something doesn't feel right. Oh yeah, Grant's a half a mile away stressing because he knows he's going to slice it or hook it. He knows it. That's Jake. So if the special teams cost the 49ers more games or a playoff berth or loses them a playoff game, you gotta look at the general manager of this team. I mean, the team has a great scouting department. They find diamonds in the rough, but when it's time for Kyle Shanahan to really do his own scouting or let his position coaches make a big decision on a player in rounds 2, 3, 4? God. You got to hold Kyle Shanahan responsible for this special teams, and it doesn't look like there's any solutions. I mean, what they got to do, I'm sorry, Jake, but Jake's got to go. Jake's got to go. They had Anders Carlson, who's on the couch right now, hanging out, chilling on the couch. He was better. He was also taken in the same draft as Jake Moody. He's got pedigree. Tall, big leg, long leg. I think they got to get a different kicker. I'm sorry. And again, if Moody hadn't been a third round pick, I think he would have been, I don't think he would have been on the team to start the year. So they didn't address it. It's a little overdue. Probably need to get a new kicker just for the morale of the team, unless Debo and Jake Moody are going to sing Kumbaya on the plane ride back. Do you think they're sitting next to each other, Debo and Jake Moody? It's probably Jake Moody in the aisle seat, Debo in the middle, Tabor Pepper on the close to the wing, right in the window, and they're playing Uno. They're like, God, that really got out of hand, huh? You know what I'm saying? Drinking cocoa, watching reruns of South Park. South Park. I bet that's what they're doing. Best friends. Okay, let's talk about something positive. Brock Purdy. Wow. That was a good game from Brock. That was a hell of a game. Now, Baker was really good. It was a hell of a game from both quarterbacks, two elite competitors. Not elite quarterbacks. Elite competitor. Brock Purdy struggled early in the game. He was inaccurate. He was a little scattershot. He was missing high. But he's not Sam Darnold, who was freaking awful today. I think he threw 3 picks in a win. No, Brock Purdy is a competitor. And even when he struggles in the first half, which he did, he found a way to throw for 350 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. He's never had a game in his career with 350 plus yards and no picks. In his career, he's mostly been a guy who's been efficient but not prolific. And if he does have to throw a lot, he's probably going to throw picks. He didn't have any close calls today. He was just really good. And with the game on the line, he led the team down the field. And when they scored in the red zone, it was him making plays. It was not like Kyle Shanahan had some really creative call that he hasn't shown yet this year and he got some guy wide open. Like, no, it's Brock holds the ball, looks this way, scrambles out to the left, throws an incredible, unbelievable pass to George Kittle, who makes the most difficult catch you've ever freaking seen. And that was just a part of it. I mean, there was another throw to Christian McCaffrey where he's going to get hit. He sees it and he throws the ball before McCaffrey's even made a break or turned around, and it's perfect. And people in the freaking press box are like, wow. I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't do things that often that make unbiased bystanders go, wow. But he did that multiple times today. And I think one of his more underrated plays was when he drew that 15-yard unnecessary roughness penalty while scrambling around the sideline. That's the kind of thing Patrick Mahomes does all the time. Those are huge freaking plays. When he runs, man, he's hard to stop. He's really freaking good. Now, I don't want to go overboard because the Bucs have one of the worst defenses in the league. They have no pass rush. They're missing They're missing corners. They're just terrible. But on defense, still, Brock Purdy, no special teams, essentially no running game. Kyle Shanahan wouldn't let Jordan Mason play, which was strange. And Brock Purdy had his best game. So someone's going to have to freaking step up and carry this team. And everyone's been waiting for it to be Christian, which is just so unfair. He hasn't been here. He hasn't played football. He's not in football shape. He even said himself, he doesn't feel like himself. Like, he should be a little sprinkle on top. That was the sprinkle motion. He should be just a little icing on the top. Instead, they got to ask Purdy to step up. And in this game, he did. They have to graduate beyond being a running back led team. And I think Brock Purdy gave the organization hope that he can do that. And like, was he necessarily a lot better than Baker Mayfield? I don't know. Baker was pretty good. He didn't have anyone that would get open. And he was like stiff-arming Nick Bosa off him at the end. They both made incredible plays. It was one of the more exciting endings to a football game I can remember because of excellent quarterback play. So I want to give Brock some props. They would have lost this game without him. If Sam Darnold was their quarterback, if Jimmy Garoppolo was their quarterback, they'd lose. If Baker was their quarterback, I think they'd win this game too. Baker's a hell of a competitor. But it's just interesting seeing Brock go from a quarterback who was sort of a product of Kyle Shanahan. Like, look at all these wide open throws. Look at a lot of that, right? And now it's like, ooh, Brock made that play on his own. Ooh, Brock was the reason they scored in the red zone. Kyle isn't really doing him any favors, but Brock found a way to overcome it. That's evolution. And if you're talking about, is he worth $65 million a year? I mean, of course the answer is no, because no quarterback is worth that. But like, is he worth $45 million a year? If he plays like this the rest of the year, then hell yeah. Hell yeah. Should the Niners QB sneak more often? Why not? First down, 2nd and 5. No one would see it coming. Herbie Holland, I don't blame Debo for the Niners special teams. I don't blame Debo. The Niners special teams sucks. Jake Moody sucks. Fire Shanahan now. Yeah, I mean, we all know that. But did it help for Debo to go and start a fight with the kicker while the game's going on? Is that what helped Jake Moody make the final kick? Or was it Tabor Pepper sticking up for him? And is it possible that Tabor Pepper was like, hey, Debo, Moody's not locked in. Why don't you talk crap to him on the sideline? Then I'll step in and I'll get his back, and then we can fight, but it's all staged like wrestling so that Moody feels good. Isn't that how life works? I bet you that was staged. And when I say I bet you, I don't. Dave Barkley says, Lyle is awful. CMC at how many snaps we suck. That was a haiku. Santos Camacho III says, I take it Moody and Pepper ain't going to get invited to Cabo this offseason. No, they can't afford that. Dave Barkley says, perfect example of Lyle effed after his 20 plays. Effed. Mr. Cut 4 says, Debo absolutely bush league. With holdouts and arrogance, hard to love the team. Kittle, on the other hand, is example of a fighter and the right attitude. I can't disagree with none of that. Kyler V says, Kyle, use all your freaking running backs and bring back Carlson. Dave Barkley says, Lyle is not a head coach, said before, but damn. Herbie Holland says, Grant, anyway, the Niners can give Jawan Jennings a contract. He is the best receiver on the team. Shout out to Jennings. Okay, I love Jennings. But in all seriousness, like, no, he's not worth $30 million a year. No wide receiver is worth $30 million a year. Maybe Jerry Rice in his prime. Easy Tino says, I hate the way Moody's face looks in his helmet. That's just a low blow. John Gonzalez says, Debo needs to shut up and produce and leave the talking to studs like Kittle and Warner. Dave Barclay, trade Lyle before locker room is gone. He's trash. Dave Barclay, if he was smart, many running backs in the backfield often. Dave Barclay, why drop Bosa in coverage? Did he? Damn. ASKDFJKLSDF says, it doesn't make sense why Kyle doesn't play Mason. Did you watch the team the last 2 years? Like, this is Kyle's thing. He doesn't want to play his best players. Why would you play your best players? That's not a fun thing to do. Okay, let's make some sleeper picks. Hold on. Hold the phone. It's sleeper time in the city. In the city. Ring-a-ling. Okay, here we go. Sleeper time. Who's playing tonight? Detroit and Houston. Of course. Jahmyr Gibbs. Receiving yards. 16.5. Smashing that. And Amon-Ra. I almost said Antoine. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Receiving yards. 71.5. I mean, I don't love it. How about touchdowns? Yup. I want that. Hasn't Goff completed like 30 passes in a row to Amon-Ra St. Brown? Yeah. Jared Goff. Interceptions. Will he throw one? Completions, 21.5. Interceptions. Will he throw one? No. Big Jared Goff guy here. Over here. CJ Stroud. Yards, 238.5. Rushing yards, 15.5. Yeah, I like that. I like doing rushing yards for quarterbacks. Am I the only person that's crazy like that? Tank Dell, Dave Montgomery, Sam Laporta. Okay, now how about people at the bottom? Nope. No, people at the top. Joe Mixon. Rushing yards. Rushing touchdowns. Receiving yards. Rushing yards. Sure, why not? 80. Love that. Smash that. Oh, here's a kicker. Sure. I'm a big Kaimi Fairbairn guy. Did he not go? He went to UCLA, right? Good school. David Montgomery, Tank Dell. Yeah, I'm saying yes on Tank Dell. They got injuries over there. I'm gonna lock it in, flex it, submit the entry. Oh man, I'm in Florida. They won't let me do it. Requires that pick versus contests are created. I don't know what that means, but just take a look and tell me that these aren't the right picks. Just tell me. I mean, these are the right picks. So you know what? Fine. But did I win any recently? No, not really. No, I did. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's okay. I'm still number one in my heart. And if you want to win a signed Ricky Pearsall jersey, download the Sleeper app, use promo code Cohn to get entered to win. I'm going to give it away soon because he's getting pretty good. Speaking of Ricky Pearsall, he's getting better every game. He's pretty good. What do we know about Ricky Pearsall? One, the Niners use him in ways they don't use any other wide receiver. What's that little thing they do with them? That cheat motion that the Dolphins been doing since last year. You saw Ricky Pearsall doing it a lot. He starts in the slot, and then he runs toward the sideline, and the ball gets snapped, and he hits that 90-degree cut and goes upfield. That's a nice little wrinkle to the offense that he seems to add that you're not going to get from Juwan Jennings or Deebo Samuel. So that's cool, schematically. And then he made that nice catch over the middle and just ran away from the defense. So we've seen on that jet sweep, was an end around a couple of weeks ago. He's explosive. You can hand it to him. You could throw it to him. He was better than Deebo in this game. It's interesting. Like, what is the Niners' pecking order right now at wide receiver? Juwan Jennings has been their best receiver for like a calendar year, all of 2024. He's now taken Brandon Ayuk's spot at X, which is the guy on the line of scrimmage who doesn't go in motion. And he's not nearly as fast as Ayuk, which does have a domino effect on the whole offense because all the safeties can play literally closer to the line of scrimmage. They're not worried about getting beat deep, but he still produces. He still makes long catches down the field. He still gets yards after the catch. Ricky Pearsall, really good too. And then Deebo Samuel, I mean, if the ball is thrown right here, he'll probably catch it. But if he has to reach out for it or reach back or reach up, chances are he probably won't catch it. And he's not going to break tackles anymore. And he's a terrible running back. And the end arounds and jet sweeps aren't fooling anyone either. So it feels like as time goes on, the amount of things the Niners can do, Kyle Shanahan can do with Deebo Samuel shrinks. Meanwhile, the stuff that they can put on Ricky Pearsall's plate, increasing. Pearsall's plate getting bigger. Deebo's getting smaller. And it's like, it seems like the Deebo Samuel plays are just a waste of time now. They'll be 3rd and 17, 3rd and goal from the 15. And they throw a screen to Deebo. Like, what is this, 2021? That doesn't work anymore. When was the last time that worked? 4 years ago, on 3rd and a mile, Kyle could call a screen to Deebo Samuel and he could potentially score a touchdown. That's not him anymore. He doesn't break tackles. He's not elusive. He's fast in a straight line, as we saw on his 32-yard run. He can run in a straight line. And if you create space for him, he just might pick up some yards. But a swing pass to him, a tunnel screen to him on 3rd and long, just punt on 3rd and long. Just punt. I'd be more interested in giving the ball to Ricky Pearsall on a jet sweep than Deebo Samuel on a jet sweep at this point. I think at this point, the starting wide receivers should be Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall with Deebo Samuel sprinkled in sometimes. Because at this point, he's a gadget player. He's not really a wide receiver. He doesn't run good routes. He doesn't have good hands. He's a gadget player who isn't as fast as he used to be, as elusive as he used to be. He doesn't break tackles. Jacob Cowing might be a better, more explosive gadget player than Deebo Samuel at this time. So stock up for Pearsall, stock up for Jennings, stock down for Deebo. Started a fight. Nice. Just play better. How about that? And then let's talk Kyle Shanahan. The Niners won this game in spite of him. Let's talk about his game plan today. He has Jordan Mason, who's having a great season, fresh off a bye week, and says, I'm going to give you 1 carry. And he gains 5 yards. And he's like, you know what? I don't like the way you gained 5 yards on that play. It wasn't quite to my taste. The manner in which you gained those 5 yards. So get the hell off the field. Get off my field gaining 5 yards on a run. Who do you think you are? We want Christian in there so we can gain 3. It seems like having Christian and Jordan Mason is a great problem to have. And especially in a game where Christian McCaffrey is clearly rusty and not quite himself. He said so himself. Like, why don't you give the Bucs a different look? They don't want Jordan Mason to get the ball. He's a load. And so you did him a favor. So the game plan was bury Jordan Mason, one of the best weapons in the league. Cool. Force feed the ball to a guy who's not even in football game shape yet. Cool. Consistently call passes in front of the sticks on third down, third and long. Cool. Do nothing different in the red zone. Run between the tackles, throw low percentage passes on when you're behind the chains. Cool. Play for field goal. So like end of the first half, it's a close game. Brock Purdy, who made play after play like this in the game, drops back and hits Juwan Jennings for about 30. About a minute left in the first half. Niners have all 3 of their timeouts. This is a great spot to call timeout, let the offense regroup, and go get that touchdown. Take some shots. Whatever you got a minute left, 3 timeouts, call one of them, and then find your best play. What does Kyle do? Not call a timeout, lets the clock run. They go up to the line of scrimmage, and Brock Purdy has to like dive and throw the ball at someone's feet to avoid getting sacked. Sweet. Then so they're essentially playing for a field goal. Why? Worst case scenario, you kick a field goal with like 40 seconds left, give the ball back to Tampa, who can't move the ball quickly. Like they for them to get the ball down the field, it's like 4 yards, 1 yard, automatic first down with a penalty. It was the slowest, most plodding offense ever because they don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And Kyle's worried about giving them the ball back at the end of the first half. So he runs the clock down on himself and then sets up a long field goal for Jake Moody, which he misses. What the hell is that? So the game plan stunk. The game management stunk. He didn't notice his players getting into a fight or do anything about it. Stunk. He's lucky he has Brock Purdy, man. He is so lucky he has Brock Purdy. Because there's a world where his starting quarterback is either Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo or Sam Darnold. Those were the guys that he brought into this organization. Trey Lance is, I don't know what he's doing right now. He's stinking it up against, he's playing tonight? What is probably awful. Jimmy Garoppolo, no one wants to see him play football ever again. And Sam Darnold is in the process of turning back into Sam Darnold in Minnesota. We all saw it coming. Those could have been the Niners starting quarterback. Instead, they have Brock Purdy, who is damn good. And Kyle had no idea. When they drafted Brock Purdy, as he's walking out the room, Kyle Shanahan turns back to, I believe it was Matt Mayoka, who said, who does this guy remind you of? And he goes, Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins? No. He's like Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker has definitely a stronger arm. He has more zip on his passes. There's a difference, but is Baker a better quarterback than Brock Purdy? No, I don't think so. I'd say they're in the same tier. And I don't know, Purdy might be even better. So Kyle Shanahan is lucky that he has this franchise savior that he didn't see the talent in. And even with Purdy playing really well today, like, did Kyle help him at all? Or were Purdy's best plays in spite of Kyle? Like, oh, your play didn't work. Let me scramble around and run to my left and hit this incredible throw to Kittle. Or the defense blitzed again and we didn't pick it up like we haven't all year. And I'll just throw the ball to a receiver who isn't looking and I'll take a huge hit and it'll be completed. Kyle Shanahan, man, his offense cannot pick up a blitz. Like what he wants to do is put everyone out into the pattern, all 5 receivers. And if the opposing defense rushes one more defensive player than the Niners can block, Kyle Shanahan wants Brock Purdy to throw to a hot receiver, someone who's aware that the blitz is coming from their side and then breaks off their route to something shorter, and he's on the same page with Brock. It's like, yeah, that works sometimes. But as Tom Brady was talking about on the telecast today, when he was a quarterback in the NFL, he didn't really like to have hot throws against blitzes in critical situations because so much can go wrong. I had to sing that one. So much can go wrong. Like the wide receiver and the quarterback have to read it the same way at the same time. And if there's a miscommunication, which happens all the time on the 49ers, then it's incomplete or intercepted. I was going to say or worse, but I don't think there's anything worse than a turnover. So it's incomplete, it's intercepted. Other ways you can beat a blitz. Block it. If they're rushing 6, block with 7. If they're rushing 7, block with 8. That actually gives the quarterback some time and the receivers some time to get open, to run a route. There are other ways to defeat blitzes. The one way that Kyle Shanahan is familiar with, is comfortable with, isn't working, and he's not adjusting. And again, did the mere return of Christian McCaffrey fix it? No. And I think that's interesting. Maybe in the future he will, but I don't think that this team, they don't deserve Christian McCaffrey they don't deserve a savior, a one-player savior. Hey, we've been an inconsistent, dysfunctional mess all year. One of the more underperforming teams in the league. One guy's going to come back and we're going to flip the switch and be tight-knit and professional. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. The Niners have big problems stemming from this guy, Kyle Shanahan, and they're bigger than one man can fix. So Kyle has to fix it. It's not on Brock. Brock isn't going to fix the special teams. Debo's not going to fix the special teams. It's going to be Kyle, or he won't. I think people are starting to understand that this season is a referendum on Kyle. If they don't make the playoffs, it's going to be about Kyle, not about Brock. It's going to be about Kyle, not about McCaffrey. The question is going to be, how in the world did a team this talented not make the playoffs? Now, I don't want to go, they've won 2 games in a row. Great. But Arizona's killing. They're still in a hole. They got Seattle next week. They should win that game. Then Green Bay, Buffalo, back-to-back. Those are a couple losses. If they play like they did in this game. Am I missing something from Kyle? Am I not does he deserve credit for something in this game that I didn't give him credit for? I'd like to know. Because it feels like the Niners won in spite of him. In spite of his special teams, in spite of his offensive scheme, in spite of his answers for the blitz, in spite of his red zone offense, in spite of his complete blinders when it comes to fights on his own sideline. I think they won in spite of him. Tony G says, telling me Niners still can't score even with CMC. I am telling you that. Fish and Chip says all the Kyle Shanahan traits was on view in this game. They were. Saturday 90 says Jake Moody hugging the upright every time is just one of many details lacking. There is almost nothing they do well and nothing can ever be easy. That's the 2024 Niners story. Tony G says 97 getting handled by Wirfs and back up until fourth quarter. Justin School was working Nick Bosa. What happened to Nick? Guy can't make a tackle. He couldn't even drag down Baker Mayfield with the game on the line. I didn't really get into the defense, but you couldn't stop Bucky Irving. You had like 17 penalties on the final drive. My goodness. When was the last time Debo stock was up? Trade Lyle, Dave Barclay. Years ago. Dave Barclay, Lyle is not smart, does not play the best players ever. Fish and Chips, reality, 6 field goal attempts, 6 failed offensive drives. Yikes. Michael McCann, let's talk about Debo getting physical with Moody and the long snapper on the sideline after that third miss. Do you see any disciplinary action taken? No, because Kyle loves Debo and he plays favorites. Easy Tino says Mason is at the end of his 3-year deal. Now, do you see what Kyle is doing? Kyle is purposely not playing Jordan no matter what Kyle says. You said it, not me. But the guy's going to be a restricted free agent. And if he's got like 1,800 yards and 10 touchdowns, then the Niners aren't re-signing him. But if they bury him and he finishes the year with like 600 yards and 3 touchdowns, then the Niners just might be able to keep him. Restricted free agent. Something to that. Joseph for real says, I love when you speak with your chest. Yeah. You say my name so eloquently. Joseph for real. For real, for real. Deliver Shanny's ruin incredibly and your awareness simply as handsome as you are. Man, that is so nice. It's about time someone acknowledges how handsome I am. And I really want it to be Joseph for real because you're a handsome guy too, and handsome recognizes handsome. Game recognized game. Simply, okay, this team would be in complete shambles without quality control. Well, I appreciate that, but the team is in shambles and I blame myself. That's leadership. I blame myself. It's my fault. Do better, Grant. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up. Let me see what's going on in the rest of the league. Curious. What happened today? Panthers won. They beat the Giants. Nice, Giants. Patriots beat the Bears. That's another team the Niners should beat. The 4-5 Bears. They freaking stink. Bills beat the Colts. They're 8-2. That's probably a loss. Vikings beat the Jaguars by 5, scored 12. Chiefs. It's funny. The Chiefs squeak out unimpressive wins, and you're like, oh, we can't really say anything to them because they haven't lost in a year and they've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. So the Niners, how they win matters. How the Chiefs win never, ever matters. Saints beat the Falcons. That's embarrassing, Atlanta. Chargers won again, of course, Jim Harbaugh. Steelers. Wow. Beat the Commanders. Steelers are pretty freaking good. Russell Wilson. What a story. Cardinals destroying the Jets. That's bad news for the Niners. Cardinals remain in first place. Eagles stomping the Cowboys. Let's look at the conference standings. Where do the Niners stand? They're now the 8th seed, 5-4. Rams play tomorrow, Monday, if you're watching this on Monday. Green Bay, 7th seed. Washington, 6th seed. Minnesota, 5th seed. Minnesota, 7-2. Washington, 7-3. Green Bay, 6-3. Niners, 5-4. They're right in it. So they could win the division. They're a game out of that. They're a game out of the half a game behind Arizona. Game behind Green Bay. They're in the thick of things. They just need to, improve their special team so it goes from being the absolute worst unit you've ever seen in the history of football to passable. And then Kyle Shanahan has to get some creativity, which I thought he used to have. Or was it his assistant coaches? I don't know. Everyone says he's a genius or he's really smart and really creative. So it's about time. It's November 10th. I think it's time for him to show it. Coming off a bye week. Let's see it, Kyle. We all believe in you. Psych. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Shady Luke says Eagles defense is young and hungry. They got Cooper DeJean, good player. But Niners got Ricky Pearsall, good player. I can't be mad. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you. I will be back tomorrow on YouTube and just in general. Moodied. Do you think that's what Debo said to him? Hey, Moody, quit moodying. It's inconsiderate. See you guys.